So one of the things that I'm curious about is what are steps that you take to build relationships with your teammates, with your fellow elected officials?
Following the campaign, I think once I got into office, I I think I fell into a bad pattern of I had this idea of what I thought politics was and how I should operate in a certain way. Um, that I think a lot of my relationships started to become very transactional. And I was bringing that to that. I was viewing, okay, how do you work to get a vote on something? How do you almost work through council rather than with council to see something achieved? And I think that was a really big error, and uh, it wasn't aligned with, I think, the values that really motivated me to want to seek office and to hold office. And from my mistakes, moving from this sort of transactional view of how things come to just a more human centric, working with someone rather than trying to work through them, I think it's really benefited me personally, in what I bring to the council table and to my relationships with each of the councillors.
You can't do anything alone. You need your counterparts to support you in any issue that you bring forward. So as such, you can't go in there and think you're on an island, right? So for me, what I personally do is, I reach out to everybody. I think Karen said it best when she said, you have to think about, even when you're running, by the time you get there, you need the people that you're running against to work with you. For me, I find vulnerability is really my strength, in the sense that I go to them and I'm going, as you know, I'm new and I don't know this. Can you guide me? Can you, like going to someone and telling them, I'm not here because I know everything, but I need you. That already forms a bond that, someone then says, you know what, I'm happy to help you. So you sort of get mentors without even asking for mentorship, because you have shown that you're vulnerable and you have shown that you respect them for where they are at that particular time. And so, in that relationship goes throughout the whole 4 years, I find, and just continuing to have that openness.
And I think there is nothing quite like sharing a cup of tea or breaking bread, however we want to phrase that. And you're right, that's not council business. That's about getting to know each other and learning to actually like each other when we may have thought we are so different that we might not be able to do that. So having those conversations that aren't about the council business are so important. It does start during the campaign, trying to figure out how do we hear properly what other folks are saying with an open heart, and figuring out how to tackle the idea, as you've said, and yet sort of state my own case in an honest, kind way. So how do we discern those ideas from the people during perhaps more tumultuous times, which the campaign can be?
We're not trying to create a utopian sort of idea here. Sometimes you are elected with people that you find really challenging to work with. And I think some of those tools are making sure that the idea of respect still comes at the forefront, that you may need to put up some boundaries around your interactions with that person, if only to protect yourself and your space. So I think, as everyone said, you can get the support of those around you and ideas from other elected officials who may have lived through the experience, where you really are struggling to exist at the table with one of your fellow representatives. And I think there's, lots of experienced elected officials around this province that can help folks navigate that. So, we can do all this good work. We can make sure that we're getting training and we're using, our skills to the best of our ability. And yes, sometimes you will still have challenging personalities that don't necessarily mesh at the table. It's still your responsibility to find a way forward. And I think that is through dialogue and through learning, rather than shutting down or sort of cutting someone off.
I'd also like to add the importance of developing good relationships with staff and with the public. While you may not always agree with the advice of staff or the opinion from somebody in your community, your role is to listen, understand what the options are, and make an informed decision. So if you want to learn more about your role as an elected official, please visit the links below.